Yo, what's going on? It's the NOC, the Nerds of Color, and we are back with another ShoPowSho. It's your boy, Kuya P, aka Patrick Michael Strange, the Adobro, the Babinka Boy, the leader of the Holla Holla Homies and the Center gang of the ShoPowSho. And today, we're missing the amazing Ates, Kataphorric, and Viva, Valentina, but I have an amazing stand-in. She's been on the show before. We've talked to her. We've explored her story. She's a good friend. We recently rocked it on Zoom with our Philippine actors, Barkada. Let's bring her up. My girl, Ashley Rapuano. What's up, Ashley?
Hello. I am honored to be an ate today.
Hey, hell yeah. So excited to see you, girl. How's everything? How's everything been?
Good. Busy. I love seeing you busy too.
I know, right? You know what I'm saying? I'm saying you just as gangsta, you know what I'm saying? But the busy is good, especially with what we do. So I love it and love to see you shine and always going to support you. Thank you for stepping in today. And today's going to be a fun one because another reason why I wanted you to step in is he's kind of your boss. You know, let's talk about him. His name is Jeremiah Abraham. He founded Tremendous Communications, a multicultural public relations and marketing company that looks to give shine to entertainment properties and find opportunities to highlight people of color and marginalized voices in media. How did you get involved before we bring him in with his amazing Tremendous Communications, Ashley?
So I had met Jeremiah at a screening in New York in like 2018, 2019, something like that. I believe it was the Soho Film Festival for Empty by Design by our friend Andrea Walter. And we met there. And then Andrea later put us in communication to each other. And then I have been so happy to be a part of the team since then. And it's just grown and sprouted. And it's been a joy.
I love it. And just the mission of what y'all do is so amazing. So you love to see it, you know what I'm saying? Because it's so important. There's so many firms and as you know, we deal with different PR firms. It's amazing. And it's wonderful to see one that highlights those of us that look like us, you know what I'm saying? Because, you know, it's so whitewashed anyway. But anyway, I love it and you love to see it. And he, beyond just doing his amazing work with Tremendous Communications, he's been involved in the entertainment industry for a long time. I'm really curious because I'm also kind of a bit of a gamer. He worked in with video games and promoting video games and doing a lot of that. But he's a producer. He still dabbles with film. He was a co-producer on Yellow Rose and Lingua Franca. Just amazing films. I can't wait to talk about that and just, you know, what is his plans and just everything that he's doing. Let's bring him up. Let's bring him on the screen. I'm gonna throw up them air horns, going to gallery now. Boom, you see him on screen. Boom, Jeremiah Abraham. Yo.
Hi. How is everyone?
Yo, loving it.
Why do they call you Babinka Boy?
You know, when it's just one of many nicknames, you know. Kuya P, I've always been the big brother, you know, to my community of Pinoys. And, you know, just the Babinka Boy, the Adobro, those are just kind of like funny slang kind of things that kind of were here and there, especially, you know, because we're all about food and I love to eat. So when you see me kind of hoarding the Babinkas, you kind of become the Babinka Boy.
I love it. Okay, so at the end of this interview, I will have a food nickname also.
Yes. I gotta ask you later what is your favorite, and then maybe I can play with that and then just turn that into something. Or maybe not. So what is your favorite?
Well, okay, so wait. In college, I was part of a boy band called the Ube Boys, and we sang very horribly, but it was still a thing. So
yeah, I love it. Okay, got it.
There.
Yeah, Ube flavor is very popular. You know. Well, Jeremiah, man, I've heard so much about you. You know, I kind of told you earlier, so many mutuals have told me, especially my boy Keith Chow. Shout out to Keith with the Nerds of Color. He was like, there's two people you need to know. And one of them that's just knows everybody. And especially if you're going to do this ShoPowSho, you need to connect with Jeremiah Abraham. So it's an honor and a pleasure to finally have this time to just learn more about you and then hopefully strengthen our relationship because we both kind of have the same mission with what you're doing with Tremendous. And I know with everything else you're doing going forward, that's my goal as well, to celebrate and support our people. And I love to see
I remember when you started this show, I was very excited because I always feel that we need more voices, more shows. A lot of people have come to me and say like, well, should I start my own thing? Like, I feel like it's not going to be a big deal. And I'm like, it doesn't have to have it, just as long as we have like the diversity, the content, the people, we're celebrating people like you are. I love it. Ashley and I have been such a big fan of this show for quite some time since you started. So
Awesome. I'm
I
so honored to
appreciate
hear that.
this.
I was nervous too, because I think that's a thing I think we as Filipinos do sometimes. We hold ourselves back because I was thinking I wanted to do a more polished, very professional show like I was doing pre-pandemic. I would, hire, a team, a crew, and we would go film at conventions and or at local comic book shops to do stuff like that. And I was like, man, should I doing it via Zoom and like in this fashion? But then it's kind of become the way of the world. And I think also as press that as we know going forward, I kind of in a way like this, you know what I'm saying? I actually book a lot more interviews in this fashion than I was doing instead of flying out for like press days in LA or New York or the like, and the type of people we can get. So thank you for saying that, man. And I'm honored and humbled. And again, I love what you're doing, man. So let's find out about that. Let's dig into that. What got you into this business and why it's such a passion of yours? And what I like to do is take it from the very beginning. I like to say that we are as beings a personification of the love of our parents. So I like to take it back to the seed until we grew into the beautiful tree or flower that we are now. So if I can take you back to that time, if you can tell us maybe a little bit of your parents' love story, if you know that, or if you don't, or if you, I don't know if you're adopted, because I had this happen when I found out that they didn't know their parents and they're adopted. And, that's an amazing journey as well. We all have our own story at the end of the day. And just, we want to celebrate that. So I want to take
you weren't kidding when you said this might be a little bit of a therapy session.
So Jeremiah, can you bring us in with that? Can you let us know how it all started for you, what you know about your parents' love story?
Yeah, I mean, so my parents met in Manila. So they were both working at a bank together. And then they started dating and then fell in love. My mom is from Laguna, from San Pablo City, and my dad's family is from Quezon City. So I was born in Manila, grew up there, went back and forth. And just I was there in the 80s during the People Power Revolution, EDSA 2, this one right here, right there. It was interesting because growing up there, I came to the US when I was 5. I didn't quite understand everything that was going on, but as a kid, you still feel that something is happening. And I think my parents and my family did a really good job of explaining what was going on in the Philippines at the time. So because of all that, we were trying to really set up our life here. So early on, right after I was born, my dad actually came to Los Angeles. To set up our life, he came here with some of his siblings, and then he joined the Navy. Once he became a citizen, I think that's when it was easier to petition us to come over. So it took a couple years. I remember it was me and my mom, and then growing up with her siblings and my dad's siblings, so aunts and uncles, and my grandparents. So I was literally the first grandchild on both families. So they kind of spoiled me a little bit until all the other kids came along. But my dad would send balikbayan boxes over. I remember getting this like huge Voltron toy, which was my favorite. I loved that thing. I don't know where it is now. I feel like I lost it as a child, but it was one of those collector's items where it wasn't plastic, it was made of steel.
Oh yeah,
and so
I remember that when it was like
that. So those
was it the car one or the tiger one?
The tiger one.
Oh hell yeah,
that's the best. Power Rangers.
Yeah.
But I remember like back then, I'm like totally dating myself now, but like back then, it cost a lot of money to make phone calls. So what my dad would do is he would, when he would send balikbayan boxes, he would also send like cassette tapes of his voice. And it was him like, sending me messages, and also my aunts and uncles who were here would like send me and our family messages. So that's how we communicated at length in the 80s, especially if your family was back in the Philippines. And so sometimes it wasn't that easy to send it was like a Betamax, I think it was back then. So sometimes if you would have like birthday parties, you would audio record it and you'd hear people like singing and like blowing out candles and all that stuff and cheering and clapping. So it wasn't just messages that we used, that we also recorded all those moments that we wanted to share with our family in the Philippines. So that was a lot of my childhood until I came here to the US. I actually came here first before my mom. So I think for a while, I think maybe till I was 6 or 7, I don't even know, I was with one parent or the other because of just all the citizenship visa stuff. And then eventually we all came to Los Angeles and I grew up there. So that was a mouthful, but yeah, that is the
I think
the
that whole the
backstory of
tape
everything.
is so absolutely sweet and beautiful. Like, do you know if you still have that, or are you aware, was that kept, those tapes? Because that would be like the most treasured item, for me, as a,
Yeah.
I'm like lovey-dovey like that. Like, that's so beautiful.
I think there's somewhere, they might be in the Philippines at my grandma's house. I could have sworn I went back there and listened to some of them, but obviously, I mean, we still have all the albums,
Yeah.
dressed up in those cute clothes from the 80s with the short shorts. But yeah, you know what? This is the first time that I actually thought about that in a long time. So I'm going to look for them.
There we go. Yes,
When
why
I
we do
find
this.
them, I will post them online. Thank you. You have already changed my life.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
It's so that, because that's, as you get older, it's things like that and objects that just mean so much, yeah. Like, those are things I treasure when I go back and see my family, certain pictures, just those moments, because you can't capture that, nothing else. Yeah. You can't put a price on that stuff. So that's beautiful. I hope you can find them and treasure them and just kind of, reconnect to that past and love it. That's beautiful. So that separation, growing up until you said you said you were 5 when you came here.
Yes.
When you're finally here. So you probably don't remember that much when you're 5 years old, but like, so then you finally come here and you're growing up. And when was it? How old were you when your mother finally came, I guess? Because you said you were separated for a bit, and just that family dynamic and separation, you were there until you're 5, you're here, but then but your mom isn't here. Just how was that growing up and all of that?
I don't even know. I mean, I feel like as a kid, your perception of time is a little different. Obviously, if you're away from your mom, it might feel like such a long time. So I'm going to ask her, but it was still around that time. And so I just remember coming here. It was a new country. I was still saying open and close the light, or I was not saying close, I was saying dress. So like, when I would tell my friends at school, like, oh, I need a new dress, like they would make fun of me because they're like, oh, Jeremiah wears dresses. Still trying to learn English as fluently as possible. I mean, we, as Filipinos, I think we had a good grasp of English, but I think that was a challenge. And one thing that I do remember coming to America was remembering that I was a little shocked that there were so many different kinds of people. So I think as Americans, we kind of forget that if you're growing up or living in another country, you're mostly going to see your own people, versus here in America, it's a melting pot of everyone. So there's a bit of culture shock if you're going to like the mall and you're seeing so many colors and so many like diverse types of people. And I remember just trying to wrap my brain around that. And I absolutely loved it. Actually, I was very in shock in a good way, because I didn't think that the world could be like that as a 5-year-old. So yeah, that was a wonderful experience. Also, my first film in the US was Superman two. The one where he loses his powers and he like wants to like deal with Lois Lane. Like that's the one. And I remember that very vividly because it was my first movie in America, and it wasn't like a Filipino movie that we're gonna go to the theaters to watch.
Awesome. Yo, I
Yeah,
think we're probably around the same age. Thinking about that now too.
probably.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
yeah,
77,
probably.
1977.
82.
Oh, really? Oh, so I'm older than you. Okay. I've always been, man,
What?
so I really am Kuya P.
You can't tell? You can't tell?
Wow. Okay. All right. Cool, cool,
Je-
cool.
I'm 82.
Jeremiah, were you on the plane by yourself when you came to America?
No, I came with my grandpa's brother. I came with relatives, but I
Okay.
remember I vividly, one of my memories was there is this part. I think it was the old terminal at Tom Bradley before they renovated it, but there's one part where it was kind of like an incline where you're coming out of customs to like, and then everyone's kind of along the railing waiting for their relatives. So I remember going up there and pulling my wheeled carry-on and then seeing my dad from a distance and like literally letting go of my luggage and like running over to him, and my luggage just hits everybody behind me because I hadn't seen him in a while. And so, you know, as a kid, like you're so excited to see your dad in that respect. But like, yeah, that my relatives were really annoyed at me that day because they left everything and made them carry everything. But yeah, no, I did not come here by myself.
Okay. I would be a wreck if I did. That's a great question, actually. Yeah, because some have done that. And I don't know if I could do that. Like I would be scared. Like, yeah, that's crazy. So oh man. Okay, so growing up and like you said, you know, seeing and loving the beauty that, you know, of people of all skin color and all that. When did it because you have to ask, because when racism is going to eventually happen, when growing up and, you know, adjusting to America and you know, quote unquote assimilating to this new Western culture, and what did do when do you recall maybe experiencing like, hey man, you're different, or you know, like sometimes it's from our own and like, oh, the fresh off the boat cat, you know, and then you get that kind of, you know, in racism within us, and then or you know, being called from somebody that is not
Yeah.
Filipino, that you're different. Do you recall any of those early experiences and how you overcame them?
Well,
Or did you?
I think for the most part, I was actually very lucky in that we ended up moving in an area of Los Angeles that was majority Latinx and Black, with some sprinkles of Filipino. So I don't know if you're familiar with LA, but I grew up in Hawthorne, near El Segundo, that South Bay kind of area. And Carson wasn't that far away, and all where all the Filipinos are, and Long Beach wasn't that far away. So if we did want to go get groceries or Filipino food, it wasn't that far. But the friends that I had were a lot of them were Latinx, a lot of them were Black, and I think you know, I was lucky in a sense where I grew up in a more POC neighborhood. But I mean, I do remember some microaggressions, especially at school, and not necessarily coming from students, but the workers at school, the people who identified as white. So, for example, when I would go to the cafeteria, I remember this also very specifically. I had a Filipino dessert with me. It was like a candy. It was like a chocolate or something, and I had that on my tray, and then I was picking up my cafeteria food, and when I went up to the lunch lady to pay, she made me throw away my Filipino food because she didn't understand what it was. She thought it was not a good thing, and she was like, no, throw that away. And I did not understand why, and it was very sad that day. But now looking back at it, it's really one of those things that stood out in my head and actually helped drive me to the mission that I set myself out to do, in that if people actually knew what our culture was about, if it wasn't such a mystery, if it wasn't so exotic in a way, then that would not happen to anybody. Like you would not make me throw my ube away, or you would not make me throw my leche flan away or whatever. But it's just, obviously like back then, Filipinos were not as in the spotlight as they are now, and to the extent that we are now. So I think it's those microaggressions that I ran into that kind of helped me want to explore being Filipino a little bit more and incorporating that into the stuff that I am doing in my career and in my life right now. So I guess it was I found I guess I found the silver lining there a bit. So
I love that. I love that. And I'm with that as well. Like I would respond even more like, nah, fuck that. Like, no, I would just be more powerful. But then having done the ShoPowSho, so many episodes now, though, coming across people that, and I think we all know people that hate themselves, the self-hate and growing up, because they wanted to assimilate to white standards and culture. And they're now discovering, that they hated themselves and are now like finding themselves again. And you come across that. I love that you kind of channeled it like I did into just being more motivated about ourselves, and then also contributing to getting that pride with those of us that aren't as prideful. Have you ever encountered that with other mutuals, other Filipinos as well, that kind of, resisted and also went the other way?
I mean, yes and no. I mean, for the most part, I think I've just mostly encountered a lot of crab mentality with Filipinos.
Oh yeah.
And so it's not that the Filipinos that I met were ashamed of their culture. It was just they didn't want to let other people shine. So I was also, in addition to these microaggressions that I ran into, I also wanted to understand that. Like I wanted to understand our thought processes, our diaspora, why we think in a certain way, why we interact with each other in specific ways. And so I think, running into a lot of that with friends and at school and professionally, I think that all kind of helped shape where I set my course to. And so I just remember in high school and in college was all trying to learn what the culture was all about, being part of the Pinoy clubs and learning all the fun dances and hanging out with all the Filipinos. And then also studying abroad in the Philippines for a little bit. That really helped kind of open my eyes to what our people were going through both here in America and also in the Philippines. So I didn't want it to just be like, oh, I understand what it means to be Filipino American, but I also wanted to see what it was like in various different communities in the Philippines. So like I went back there and studied over there for a little bit. So I think that was a very eye-opening experience.
Oh man, that's amazing. One of my goals, I've never been to the Philippines, and that's a life goal, is to visit our homeland, our country. That's awesome. That's beautiful. So before we get to that point, let me still keep it here in early childhood, and then, middle school, high school. What were you into? What are some of the things that your parents would tell us about a young Jeremiah during this, childhood time and going into high school and school?
Well, I played the piano for a long time, but I never practiced, so I was really bad at it. My sister was the one that like really honed her skills. Like she still plays now. I can probably play the chopsticks and maybe one other thing, but 8 years of piano, like I literally don't. I mean, I can still read notes at least. And then I am a black belt in Shotokan karate. I like totally messed that up right now. But I took that for a while. That was my exercise. That was my sport at school. I probably can like just still kick a wall right now, but that's all I probably remember. But I was a big nerd. I think growing up, I like grew up watching Star Trek, The Next Generation, and then I was a big gamer. I had a Nintendo, I had a Super Nintendo, I had a Sega Genesis. I was always, because I was the Kuya, because my sister is 7 years younger than me, I was always Mario and she's always Luigi. You know, it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, you're the youngest one. Like you have the secondary character. So yeah, my childhood was pretty good. I think I was really able to explore my interests, and my parents never really pushed me to specific careers. They just wanted me to be happy and decide for myself what I wanted to do as a career. And if I wanted to explore like art or anything, they were pretty good about that. So
awesome. So with that being said, yeah, going into school, socializing now with your community, finding what you want to do later on in life with English, the arts, subjects. Did you have a favorite subject in school, and maybe things that like would lead you towards your path later on in life that you really enjoyed doing?
I really like chemistry until I took chemistry, if that makes sense. Like I bought a chemistry, or my parents bought me a chemistry set, and like I liked watching Bill Nye the Science Guy. And then in high school, I took chemistry and realized I was really bad at it. So I decided not to become a chemical engineer. But I did become a computer engineer. So that's something that not a lot of people know about me, is that I do have a degree in computer engineering. I took advanced calculus, and I took three-dimensional physics, and I took astrophysics. I took all those things in order for me to learn. I actually, for my undergrad senior project, I made an early version of a Roomba. And that is why I have a bachelor's in engineering, because I made a Roomba before Roomba was created, but I should have actually made it into a company instead of starting this whatever this company is.
You would have had your millions already now. You would have had your billions. Oh my God. Wow. That's awesome, dude. That's crazy.
So yeah. But no, I mean, back then, I think this was like mid to late 90s. Information and computer sciences were like the big thing. Like that's what a lot of people wanted to do. People were discovering programming. I was a programmer. I learned a bunch of different programming languages. My first job, actually out of college, I was a front end developer for Disney. So if you went to Disney.com, it was literally me coding that for Disney. And that's where I got my first real taste in entertainment. And I was like, well, I want to be in entertainment, but I don't want to be coding for entertainment. But yeah, so I think I still remember the fundamentals of all that stuff. So if I were to like hire a bunch of programmers, I would still know if they're like, I could still call bullshit on them if I'm like, no, like that's wrong.
Oh man. So were you like, to me, because we're both old heads, and finding out I'm older than you, so I'm really old. I'm American Online, AOL.
I was AOL too.
You know what I'm saying?
Did you have one of those Pinoy screen names?
Yeah, I was Flip Dancer, FLP Dancer at AOL.com, because I was,
God.
Pinoy chat room.
So I had AOL, and then I also had AIM. Do you remember AIM?
Oh hell yeah, AOL Instant Messenger.
And then so I had a bunch. So I was Mac Daddy Pinoy, and then when I went to UCI, I was XX Flip Boy XX UCI XX. And it was like the lowercase and the uppercase.
Yes.
Yeah, everything needed a PNY or an AZN.
Exactly. Remember Ricky Martin was like the thing at when he first like burst onto the scene, right? And so it was like Esta Loca. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna flip it and be Esta Lova. Because I was trying to Mac Daddy on these girls. But I was like Flip Dancer, and then I added Esta Lova because I needed like another username, because I had to Mac and make sure certain people didn't have certain accesses. but but like coding like your MySpace, like decking it out or certain, that's to me where I think a lot of the like especially our generation learned how to code was because we wanted to really pimp out our profile pages when we're trying to
But
holler.
it wasn't just MySpace. It was also your AIM description or your AIM profile. And so I remember it was the thing was it was all the ASCII art where it was like different colors and then you'd like use it like and it was and you'd have like a drawing with all the ASCII characters on your profile. And I'm like, okay, well, I want to do that. Like that's that. So I learned how to do that. And a lot of my friends just would come to me and like,
you'd become the go-to. Like I was the same deal.
Yeah.
Hilarious.
And that was, I mean, that's when you also needed to like program your own polyphonic ringtone. And so there was a go-to for that. So there was a friend to pimp out your AIM description. And then there was another friend that would give you like the Zelda theme song on your Nokia, like polyphonic phone, your candy bar phone. And so you'd have a friend for everything, which hell
yeah, the memories. Oh man, that's awesome. It's crazy. It's so real, so true. All right, so high school before we get to college, this was always the high school question we have to ask. You already kind of said what you went into, but just like, and I think you already have already answered it. So generally, you know, for most of us as children of Filipinos, they either want us to go into they don't ever want us to go into the arts. You know, it's nursing, doctor, lawyer, accountant. So you didn't get that pressure because I think, like you said, you were already coding a little bit and you went the computer route. Did you ever get that? And even then going to college and selecting your college, can you get us into that frame of mind and were you ever experiencing any of that?
I was never pressured into a specific career. My sister wasn't either, although she became the architect of the family and I just became some movie guy. And then, but I did get pressure with schools. So, because obviously I think, you know, growing up Filipino, you needed to stay close to your family, or it was still that mentality of you stay at home until you like get married and then you live at home. So I remember applying to various schools. I was telling my parents that I wanted to maybe go out of state. But they did that thing where it's like, well, if you go to New York for school, we won't buy you a car. And I'm like, okay, well, then I'm going to UCI. Which, I mean, I love being an anteater. I'm not saying that it was a bad thing, but it was one of those things where they wanted me at close distance, which I completely understood. As immigrants, like you want to still be close to your family. You still want, access to the people that you love and to support. And, you know, my parents were very supportive. Like they did as much as they could to make my focus my school. So I think, you know, it was a good experience. But no, I was not pressured into any sort of career.
Got you. So as you know, when you go off to college, we can kind of finally break free from our controlling Filipino parents, you know?
Well, so they'll probably watch this, but I told them that living in the dorm was mandatory. So I didn't have to drive 45 minutes to UC Irvine and 45 minutes back with no traffic. So if it was probably like 2 hours with traffic. So I was like, hey, you know, like, cause I was the first kid. So like they made the mistakes with me and then they like learned from my sister. I was like, yeah, like living in the dorms is mandatory. So I have to be there. They won't let me go to that school. And they're like, oh, okay. I feel bad about it now, but back then, like, you know, it was one of those things that you like had to say. Is this too, I'm sorry, is this too, I'm going to turn my lights on real quick.
Oh, you're good.
Is that better? Okay, great. There you go.
Yeah. No worries.
It's almost 9 p.m. in New York right now. So.
Oh, okay. I thought you were in Cali. Oh, yeah, that's right. You know what? No, I didn't know you were in New York. That's right.
Yeah, no, I live in Brooklyn. I moved to New York about almost 6 years ago now, but I grew up in LA.
Yeah.
I wanted to explore something else. I got a really great job offer here that, you know, relocated me from LA. And so we've been here since 2016, I think.
Okay.
So 5, maybe 6 years.
All right. So then when I go up there, because I've been going up there here and there, man, we got to link up. So even better. And I plan to meet Ashley out there in LA or Vegas very soon. So I can't wait to meet you in person, Jeremiah.
Yeah.
All right. So off of that tangent, I apologize, but I'm excited. So now I can finally meet you in person. So like I said, when you go to college, you know, you get to be free and you get to discover more and, you know, find yourself. Did you find yourself out from under your parents' shell and then finding out what you want to do even more? And like you said, you were in the computers, but then where did this love for the arts and eventually getting involved with that later on, did that happen while you were at school or did it happen after?
It happened at school. So I joined a group at UC Irvine called Kababayan. It was the Filipino organization there. If you've heard of Kaba Modern, that's the dance team at Kababayan. I actually auditioned for Kaba Modern and I did not get in. I was like the worst person at the audition. But you know, I met a lot of like-minded people who were very passionate about the Filipino culture. I joined PCN, and I think that's when I started realizing that I also love this whole like sociology of things. And so I remember, you know, I didn't want to leave engineering at the time, but I also wanted to incorporate learning like social dynamics and you know and cultural institutions. So then I minored in sociology. And I justified it by saying like I didn't think that you could be an engineer who tries to change the problems of society without actually understanding society. And so I wanted to supplement my education with that minor. So I graduated with a minor in sociology from UC Irvine as well. And that's when I started really expanding the way that I thought about the world and the way that I thought about my trajectory. And this is around the time when social media was starting to really pop up. So like Friendster was popping up and MySpace was appearing. And, you know, I really wanted to hone into this whole, like this concept of the internet. Like sound so old. But yeah, I wanted to really try to figure out where all these puzzle pieces fit, because I didn't want it to just be like one thing like for the rest of my life. I knew that I wanted my career and my life to be very dynamic and to grow. And so that meant trying to educate myself as much as possible. Going to the Philippines and receiving a certificate in intensive Philippine studies from UP Diliman. And then I went to grad school in communication. So, you know, it was one of those things where I wanted to try to understand as much as possible so I can make the biggest impact as possible.
Oh, that's amazing. I love it. I love it. So, so a lot of those trips, I would assume, helped really change the course of your life. And I would assume were life-changing to go back and revisit. And then as you're learning and growing while you were in college as well, just help molded your future mission.
My study abroad in the Philippines sparked my desire to use my skills in tech and communication and sociology to help our Filipino American community as much as possible. So the study abroad in the Philippines helped spark a company that I started called BakitWhy.com, which was the first Filipino American like digital content destination, which I started in 2007. And so it was hopefully a spark for other Filipinos. It's so crazy because we were able to hire a lot of people to join the group, and some people realized that they didn't want to be neurosurgeons. They wanted to be educational doctorates because of the work that we did with bucketY.com. And it's crazy. Like even to this day, when I mentioned it, people still remember what it was. And they tell me like, hey, you know, this actually helped me realize what more I could do for our community. And instead of honing in on just one trajectory in my career, I'm so happy that company and the mission that we were setting out to spotlight Filipinos actually inspired the next generation of Philam activists and next generation of Philam leaders. So
that's beautiful.
really
That's
good.
awesome. Heck yeah. Congrats, man. I really even remember that. That's crazy. Just faces to names and just, wow, that's beautiful. Doing that, you know, I think a lot of people that are watching this can learn a lot. What are some of the difficulties in doing that are lessons learned that we can impart to the viewers when you want to kind of chart a path in doing something like that?
I think it's really finding your voice and being confident in it. I think a lot of times, I don't know if it's a Filipino thing. I don't know if it's an immigration thing. I mean, maybe it's a little bit of both, but I think a lot of times we are afraid to speak up. We're afraid to not only speak up for others, but we're also afraid to speak up for ourselves, especially when we are at the workplace where, you know, we know our value in our head, but that doesn't always translate to what we are doing or what we are striving for. So that was the biggest learning experience for me, and I'm still learning it, is to not only know your value, but ask for your value and act for your value and stand up for your value.
I think that's one of the biggest things you've taught me through all the work that we've done together, even if it's through like just marketing or communications, or whether it be like me as a person doing marketing and me as a person like doing acting or something. I think every single person that you come across, you kind of teach that lesson to, whether it's like consciously or subconscious.
I hope so. I mean, like, that's how I taught myself to act. And so, I mean, like, I sometimes consciously try to teach others that, and other times it's just the way that I am. And so I'm glad that you gained some value with being on our team. But yeah, no, it's one of those things where, you know, we really have to stand up for ourselves, especially in the work that we do with Tremendous, where, you know, our mission is to spotlight our community's value. But if we don't know our own, then how can we stand up for the people that we're fighting for in Hollywood? And so that is a constant reminder that I have to keep, you know, telling myself, you know, like self-care and just, you know, like reminding myself that you have to nurture yourself and realize your strengths before you can uplift others. So it's a constant battle, I will say, but it's the biggest lesson that and the most impactful lesson that I've learned in the years that I've been in this industry.
Did you find part of your voice through like, so you're coding and everything, but you're also in like Ube Boys and stuff? Is that kind of a way that you found your voice?
No, it was literally, well, yes. I mean, it was, I don't even remember what it was. It wasn't like a consistent thing. It was for a show, a Filipino show at UC Irvine. So we just created this like boy band to sing one song. We sang Brown Eyed Girl, and we literally learned one song and we harmonized probably like once or twice during the whole thing. And it was a cappella. And then we never did it again. So, but that one song took us weeks. But like, you know, it's one of those things where you just remember it being such a fun thing that you did as a kid with your friends. And one of those things that you did in college, but you probably won't join another boy band ever again. So we'll see. Well, get me a little drunk, and I'll redo the Ubi Boys.
Hey,
Maybe
I know,
that'll
right? I'm one of those kind of guys too. Amazing, amazing. So can we talk about the video games? You know, like you said, you're a little bit of a gamer at the beginning, doing the Mario and the Luigi with your sister, getting into video games like later on, like with Scribble Knots. I'm looking at Batman Arkham Origins, Lego Marvel Super. I'm like, what? I have all of these games. Like, to me, that's awesome. I love it.
Well, okay, so I a good part of my career. Well, let's see. I don't know. So okay, here. So I started my career at Disney, and so at Disney, I touched a bunch of verticals, including gaming, and so I was able to work on some of their mobile games from a creative and programming standpoint. But then after Disney, I moved to a good chunk of my career, which was at Warner Brothers. And so Warner Brothers, back then, they were still starting their social and digital marketing practice. And I was literally the only one at the company with a master's in communication with a specific study and focus in digital social media. And so I was there kind of helping shape the way that was structured at the studio. So I was going from division to division. I started there in home entertainment, so and also in the theatrical division. So I worked on like Harry Potter. I worked on a bunch of DC films, all the Batman films, Superman films. And so I got very, very familiar with DC Entertainment because I worked on their movies. And then eventually I found myself to the interactive division for a couple of years where I was leading a lot of their social and digital marketing strategy and also execution with my team. But that's where I was able to work on Mortal Kombat. I was able to work on Injustice, Gods Among Us, Batman Arkham, all the DC games, Scribblenauts, both on third-party platforms like PlayStation and Nintendo, but also on mobile. So we were starting our mobile division there. But I think one of the biggest properties that I worked on, I was leading the global social media and digital marketing for the Lego franchise. So that included Lego Batman, Lego Marvel, Lego Harry Potter, like any Lego that you can think about, I probably worked on, which was actually really amazing because at one point I was working on DC characters, but I was also working on Marvel characters because I was working on Lego Batman stuff, and I was also working on Lego Marvel stuff. So it's interesting because I would have to very consciously switch from DC to Marvel and back to DC. So whenever I would take meetings with Marvel, I would need to very consciously never ever mention Superman or Wonder Woman and be like, oh wait, Iron Man, yeah, that's a thing. So that was actually fun. Oh, here. So this is one of the things I keep on my desk. This is my memorabilia from Lego Batman 3. So it's interesting because my background is social media marketing. And so we actually won a bunch of awards. That's where I won a lot of my Shorty awards and Webby awards working in video games. So it was an interesting time. I also worked on Shadow of Mordor, if you recall that. And also, it's like a gory game that I tried to block from my memory.
No worries. I love it. I was just thinking as a young gamer to like kind of come full circle in a way, to be helping with the promotions and marketing with video games had to be fun. And then I don't know if you're a young comics fan too. I don't know if we covered that earlier, but that would have been amazing, you know, just to dabble with both and just kind of seeing that full circle from a kid to doing it as an adult.
And I think also, I mean, I always say that work, any type of work is, or at least in entertainment, is 10% glitz and glamour and fun and 90% sweat and anxiety. And so whenever people see my work from back then, they always see my photos from like E3 and Comic Cons and like doing all these like fun things and hanging out with celebrities. But it was a lot of hard work. It
Oh
was
yeah.
it was late nights planning my marketing strategy, planning my communication strategy. It was a lot of times it was years in the making, because I was also I don't know if you remember, there was this one video game. It was called Lego Dimensions.
Yep.
It was one of those things where you put the Lego minifig onto like a pad and then it appeared on your TV. So that was actually really cool because I got to work with The Simpsons and Back to the Future and Jurassic World, like those other franchises that you would never like even think about that you could work with in an interactive and video game setting. So it was, to your point, it was literally my childhood dreams come true. Because I mean, I grew up with those movies, right? Like you grow up with like I don't know, like X-Men and Harry Potter, and you grow up with like Jurassic Park, and then you start getting paid to work on it.
Yeah.
Like, that was amazing.
Heck yeah.
The best memory I ever had at Warner Brothers was that when they made me a Facebook admin for Miss Congeniality, and I was like, oh my god, like I get to get paid to like hang out with Sandra Bullock all day. Like that's cool.
Heck yeah.
So that really started my love for entertainment and all these franchises that we're working on now, and all these films that we're working on with Tremendous. Like it stems from a genuine young nerd geek entertainment kind of whatever, and a genuine delight for films like this and how it shapes our lives and how it shapes our interactions with the world. And looking back, like you whenever you like listen to the Jurassic Park theme song, like it triggers a feeling, right?
Oh yeah.
And so that's definitely one of the things that I want to try to bring across to the films and the people and the organizations that we represent and uplift, and that these films are important. And if you are represented in these films, then now imagine like 20 years from now, you'll be the cause of other people's nostalgia. Kind of like how we look back and like think about Dante Bosco in Hook and all those amazing, and the debut, like those are now ingrained into not just our culture and society, but our identity. And that's how like we interact with people. And that's ultimately what we're fighting for with Tremendous, is that we want to make the next generation of Asian Americans, Filipino Americans, look back and feel empowered because these people fought for them.
I love it. Yes. For all of us of color, man. I think it's so beautiful. So I want to also bridge that specifically in regards to the Filipinx, which we are. You co-produce Lingua Franca, you co-produce Yellow Rose. Us as Filipinos, you know what I'm saying? We're fighting the fight for all of us of color. But then, I would like to spotlight our journey and pushing us a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Because, we have few of that representation. How important is that for you? And just, like, are there any other projects that you can maybe speak on without spoiling anything that beyond, like, along those lines of Lingua Franca and Yellow Rose, that we're working towards to help build our narrative as Filipinos?
Yeah. Well,
I got a Ballad Mactan script, by the way, just to put that out there. I've got people in mind as well to be Lapu Lapu, all of that.
Got it. Well, let's make something. No, it's incredibly important because as somebody who promoted other people's work, not necessarily Asian, not necessarily Filipino, I will say that there were times where I had to promote films because it was my job that I might not have fully liked, or at least tried to shape the narrative of a film that I didn't maybe always agree with. But, like as a young person in your career, like that's sometimes what you have to do. And so like, I never realized that I could then shape my own narrative until very recently, actually. And so when I moved to New York and I met these amazing filmmakers, these wonderful producers who were collaborating together on a Filipino American, and not just even Filipino, but these are American stories. The story and the lead and the family just so happened to be Filipino, which I actually absolutely loved. Because a lot of times, when you are watching movies about POCs, they're still exoticized. They're still shown in a way that is not as American as they really are or could be or whatnot, or they're still riddled with microaggressions. But this one was made by Filipinos, Filipino Americans, to celebrate our stories and to celebrate our lives and our families and our values, while still making it very, very American, right? Because that's our story. Like I'm not always carrying like a tinikling stick everywhere I go, or I'd love to, but you can't. And so for me, that was very important, and it was such an eye-opener. And Yellow Rose and Lingua Franca were so amazing to work with. Diane Paragas and Isabel Sandoval were absolute delights. Very, very talented. They're both geniuses. And so that's something that I am pursuing still, and that's something that I am incorporating into my work. So in addition to Tremendous, and the work that we're doing with PR and marketing, I do have a couple things in development. I can't say specifically what it is. I am potentially working on a TV show, and I am working on a Filipino Western. Yeah, that's
I can't
fun.
wait. I'm excited.
And I am working on a rom-com and kind of this like indie music kind of vibe.
Okay.
And I'm potentially working with Isabel Sandoval again on her next film. So these are a lot of these are still in development. Like I think they'll definitely take years. They're not going to be done in the next few months. But these are the seeds that we need to plant now, because now, like after Yellow Rose, Lingua Franca, and you have movies like Empty by Design and Girl Who Left Home, and all these wonderful Filipino creators who are making shorts and putting out content. Now is the time for us.
Yes.
Like now is the time for our content. And so I'm so happy that Yellow Rose and Lingua Franca helped to reopen those doors. I think there hasn't been a mainstream Filipino American film out there. It was one of the Yellow Rose was one of the first Filipino American films to be distributed theatrically by a major movie studio.
Mm-hmm.
So just the fact that these projects are now helping to inspire other projects and helping to show Filipino American filmmakers their worth and their value is amazing, and is exactly what we're doing with Tremendous. I feel like it's all encompassed into the same value and the same notion of empowering the next generation. And so that's always where I bring it back to, and that's always what fuels me, is that we are doing the hard work. We're feeling all the anxiety and we're sweating all the sweat now, and our eye bags will show our story so that our children won't have to have eye bags anymore.
Hell yeah. I love it. I love thank you for sharing that and what you could share, but I love that, knowing that you do have some projects coming up and that it's being worked. I feel
I'm also
personally
in talks with a film fund. I have not ever talked about that ever, and this is the first time that I'm talking about it.
Hey,
but I am in development for a film fund, so hopefully that comes to fruition, and I will be able to enable more Filipino American stories to be made.
Yes, I love it. Yes, yeah, because as I was saying, I love because you are. We need guys like you. We need men and women. We need to be behind the scenes promoting, making this happen because they're not going to give it to us. That's why, like I wanted to do the show because then we're well, come to find out, there are some other Filipino podcasters out there, but I'm happy to add to that, because there needs to be more of us because there's a lack of this and lack of representation. We need to just create that path, and you love to see it in what you're doing in those partnerships. I feel like there's a genuine renaissance going on, and there's a lot of motivation. I get it from with Ashley, with our Filipinx Actors Barkada, seeing the work you both are doing with tremendous communications, and just we have a Filipinx filmmakers group on Facebook with Diane, with Elizabeth, just everybody chiming in. I'm talking to Dino next week. Finally going to meet him finally and have him, and with everything Dino's doing with Diaspora, I'm so hyped and motivated. And like you said, for the next generation, paving this path so my daughter can see that. When I was building up ShoPowSho, she was like, you need to have on Asia Jackson. I just recorded an interview with Asia Jackson yesterday. You know what I'm saying? Because my daughter's Black and Filipino. And to me, Asia represents all of that and is so prideful with Skinfluencer and Maganda Morenix. Just all of that energy is that crab mentality that I was in fear of, and that we talk about, that we see sometimes with our community. There's many more that are surpassing that and overcoming that crab mentality, and we're working together, and you love to see it. And I love what you're doing, Jeremiah, in every way. And thank you for sharing all of this with us. Ashley, because I wanted to bring you on because of your working relationship with Jeremiah. Do you have any other questions you wanted to throw at him before I throw like a couple of my last ones at him?
Yes,
be careful,
I do.
Ashley. Be careful.
Okay, great. Maybe I shouldn't. No, but like Kuya P, just like so stoked with things that are happening right now. Like we are in this age of renaissance, and it's really beautiful to see. And like my career is just developing, and I'm like rolling with the ball that's like going now. Like it feels like just snow accumulating down the hill, and it's really great. How does it feel to have like from Bucket Y, like you're just like craving this representation, and then years down the line, like you're at the helm, like studios are talking to you, like representation is out there now. Do you ever just stand back and go like, oh my God, it happened. It's happening. It's now.
I mean, yes and no. I mean, I try not to, it's weird. Like I try not to bask in it too much. Like sometimes you do have to step back and say like, this is the life that I wanted 10 years ago. And now I'm here. And now where do I want to be in another 10 years? But I think it's important to do that, definitely to reflect. But for me, I've just really been keeping my like focus and making sure that we're executing and doing what we're setting out to do. And I think there is an Asian renaissance right now, but that doesn't mean we need to be comfortable. Like there's still a lot of work to be done. Like, yes, there's more Asian directors, there's more Asian American talent, there's more Asian American people behind the scenes and doing some amazing things. Filipinos winning all these competitions and awards and getting recognized. But I think, we cannot be comfortable because there's still a lot of work to be done. These heads of studios are still people who may or may not understand our people and may or may not understand how to represent us, even though their intentions may be good. I don't know, like sometimes like they're just here to make money, or most of the time.
Let's not forget they try to do a nurses series with nothing but like white people. Yeah. Like, come on.
I mean, really? Like I watched Grey's Anatomy, but where are the Filipino nurses? Like there's literally
even back then. Yeah.
Literally, so the season finale of whatever season this is, season 18, we finally got a Filipino nurse, which was such a milestone, but my mind is so blown because it took them 18 years to put somebody, a Filipino with a speaking role in this show. And I'm like, all right, well, what do we need to do to change this? moving forward. So at least it's happening.
Yeah.
But I think I stand by the fact that, you know, we have to keep grinding, we have to keep hustling, we have to keep pushing. We mentioned this before, like we can't wait around for these studio execs to decide that they're going to make a Filipino story. Like they're not ever going to do that. We have to make our own and be loud about it. And I will say, you know, coming back to the whole making money, like it is our responsibility as an Asian American and as a Filipino American community to go out there and support these films. Because I always say that entertainment is not just here to make memories for you, they're here to make money off of you. And so if you are not buying a ticket, if you're not out there supporting these marginalized stories, they're not going to greenlight anymore. And so, you know, when films like Yellow Rose come out, when films like Lingua Franca come out, watch it as many times as you can, buy a ticket, or and if you can't buy a ticket, tell your friends to go out and see it, because like that's what's going to make our faces seen in future projects, the demand from the people.
Hell yeah.
That's
I completely agree.
That's the biggest thing.
Yeah, it drives me crazy. Everybody that's trying to pirate stuff. I'm like, come on, yo. Y'all just at least with our stuff, buy it and support it, because like you said, it's not going to get made. We need that finances, those budgets.
Yep.
Yeah,
exactly.
So how do you keep like you're producing these things, you're involved in these movies, you're working on this, like the secret TV show that you're thinking of, like all these things are happening. How do you keep fighting? Like how do you find that vigor to keep going? And then like on the days where you need a break, like how do you tell yourself to need a break? Like how do you find that balance?
Well, Ashley, that's why you work for me, right? Like you help keep me sane. That's the thing. No, I think it's tough because we always feel like we need to do this all ourselves, right? But I think in order to make a big impact, you need to have a vision and then inspire others to be on board and to help you and to represent you with the stuff that you're trying to accomplish. Because if it was just me, I would have I can't pull any more hair out right now, but like I would have like burnt out such a long time ago. And so I'm just really happy that I have a great support system. I surround myself with like-minded people who are also entrepreneurs, who we can mentor each other, we can support each other both professionally, emotionally, and be each other's friends. And you just have to surround yourself with those kinds of people. And then if and when you are in a good place to actually bring people on, like I'm happy that I found you, Ashley. You've been it's been almost a year, right? Like you joined our team. And so, yeah, it's just, you can't do it by yourself. And I try to find the motivation to do it. But you also have to make time for self-care. I try to meditate like every morning, at least for a few minutes, or pre-COVID, I tried to take as many trips as possible. So one of the biggest things that I actually learned, this was from, so I used to work at Condé Nast. So I worked with like Vogue and GQ and Vanity Fair and whatnot. And one of the things this is gonna sound so douchey, but one of the things that I learned from Anna Wintour was that you need to go
swag.
Oh, well, I had to there'd be times where like I would suddenly find out that I have a meeting that had Anna in there. So I would literally think that I was not dressed cute enough. So I would go downstairs and shop for a new outfit at Zara and then come back with like a new, like whatever. But
I can understand that. It's freaking Anna Wintour. Yeah, hell yeah.
That's actually a different time in my life, which will take more hours to talk about. But one of the things that I learned from her was that you need to go experience the world so you can change it.
Hell yeah.
And so she encouraged everybody in the company to, to travel and then bring back new perspectives. And so I always kind of kept that in mind when I started creating my own stuff and creating my own path, where I realized that every time I came back from a trip, I always felt so refreshed and with different thoughts in my head and different ways to approach things. So that was one of the things that kept me sane, is to actually purposely stop emailing, stop texting, stop working, and experience something for a certain period of time and come back with a fresh perspective and fresh look at it. So
I love that. Actually, that's something I think I'm now going to ask going forward. Like, what is the most important piece of self-care recommendation you would give to yourself, or to somebody?
It's so needed.
Listening? Yeah,
the tips are needed.
I also like to eat. I think the biggest form of therapy is to just like go out there and eat some good food. It's and you go out there and discover different Filipino restaurants that are in the city, and it's very comforting. So
well, let me tell you, going forward, one of the things I plan to do, we're still early on, with our show, my ShoPowSho. What I would like to do is, in future, like I said, down the line, I want to have like a crew, and then we just do this over food. You know what I'm saying? And conversate. So we're gonna have to have a future conversation, Jeremiah, and then we'll have Ashley over, and we'll just sit and talk and celebrate whatever current project we're doing at that time. And over some.
Ashley is very good at producing shows. She has a show every Friday on our IG Live called Tremendous Talks.
Yes.
So you should. She would be amazing for this.
Totally. Let's do it. We're gonna do it. It's in the books now. We're gonna make that happen. I'm gonna have that happen. But yes. I love it, Jeremiah. I have one last question. Or did you have another one, Ashley? By the way, I want to make sure you get all yours in there before we let them go, because we have them at this moment.
This is your last chance.
Your last chance.
I think that I have I've written down so many things, and I want to put on a shirt. You need to go experience the world in order to change it. And yeah, I think. Yeah, I think that's all the questions.
My best friend is Filipino.
Yes. So. I love it.
No, I'm just in awe of all that you do. And I also have to shout you out and show my appreciation for you, because everyone that you have on your team is kind of in the beginning stages of their career. And we're just, and you take us on as mentors, and you're really dedicated to teaching us and walking us through things, even though, learning can be frustrating at times, but you're so caring and kind of teaching us and showing us, and your mission is so it's so evident in everything that you do, and that you really do care about the next generation and what we're doing and stuff too. So I had to shout you out for that, but I don't think I have any more questions because I don't want to get fired.
You mean I haven't Devil Wears Prada you yet? I haven't.
Oh, I'm so nervous for that.
I'm not your Miranda Priestley yet.
Oh man, I feel bad for you, Ashley. Nah, he's a good guy. Jeremiah, you are absolutely amazing. You live up to everything I've heard. All good about you. I have one last question, because we are part of the Nerds of Color, and I met you through my boy Keith with the Nerds of Color. It's our nerd question, and I will have to preface this with this nerd question is you can't utilize something that we already know about you. So if you were to give a nerd TED talk on something, and it doesn't have to be the traditional quote unquote nerd stuff. When I had Rodney Salinas on, I was like, if he could give a nerd TED talk, it would be about politics. I had who did I have on? I forgot who it was, but he could do a nerd talk on tax law, something weird like that. What did you do, Ashley? Do you recall what your TED talk was on? Was it Harry Potter?
I'm pretty sure. No, it was sharks. Sharks.
That's right. Sharks. So if you could give a TED talk on something that we don't know about you, what could you go to town, or, you have pretty knowledgeable on that you could talk on that nobody knows about you?
I was and still am a walking encyclopedia of Star Trek. I will tell you, I will give you an hour-long TED talk about why I named my dog Lieutenant Commander Geordi LaForge. And I will tell you about the time where I went to a Star Trek convention And I ran up to LeVar Burton, showed him a photo of my dog, and like yelled in his face saying how much I love him and how much, and that I named my dog after him. And the moment where he almost called security and Brent Spiner looked over and started laughing in his face. That is my nerd moment.
Awesome. Do you have a phaser and everything? Do you have like, are you a fan of like the materials or, you know, the marketing stuff? Do you have like a phaser? Do you have a uniform or anything like that?
I did, and then I have these collectible.
Collectibles.
I have these collectible starships that I put on my Christmas tree every year.
Nice.
I will say that I've worked. This continues to be my biggest current regret, and I'm trying to fix it as much as possible. But I've worked on almost all the big film and entertainment franchises. I've even worked on Star Wars. I've never worked on Star Trek.
Oh man, we gotta correct
that's
that.
what I'm trying to change that. I'm really trying so hard, but it's tough. That's a hard nut to crack.
You gotta get with the Picard. Don't we have the Picard show? Isn't that like on Hulu?
Yeah,
or is
it's on Paramount
Plus. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, we got to make that change happen. We got to get you.
Well, now you have Filipinos in Star Trek.
Yeah.
So you have Isa Briones, you have Eugene Cordero, so much amazing talent. So hopefully there will be more Filipinos going to the final frontier. And you know, when that happens, when there is a Filipino captain of a Starship Enterprise like DEF, whatever, I will retire. I will be like, that is job well done.
Yes.
Ashley, you can retire as well. We have done our duty. We are good to go.
I love it. Yes. Yo, when you were talking about regrets, you made me remember a Star Trek regret of mine. I'm a fan of Star Trek as well. The last San Diego Comic-Con before the pandemic, I was heading to a yacht party for I think it was the Blurred and Bougie for WB, and on my way from the hotel I passed Brent Spiner, LeVar Burton, who I was in there. It was like a bunch of the Star Trek Next Generation cast. They were in like one of those carts things that, you know, people ride around in San Diego, especially during Comic-Con. They were all hanging out in the like this little cart, and I said hi to them as they passed by, and then a lot of people started rushing, taking pictures, but I didn't want to be that guy. You know what I'm saying? Because you're like, you want to be cool. You don't want to be like
your only opportunity. That's a big regret.
Because it was everybody in there, and everybody got all these cool pictures, and I didn't want to be that guy, but I should have been that guy. Because when else are you going to get all of them right there in like a little cart?
So
waving
one of
everybody.
The coolest things that I own, and this is not something that I bought, this is something that I own and I experienced myself, is a drawing of Leonard Nimoy that was made for me by Adam West. That was one of the biggest nerd moments that I ever had. So I was working on one of the Batman properties, and I was Adam West's talent handler at a couple of Comic-Cons. And he was bored at one point, and he turned to me and he was like, "Jeremiah, who's your favorite actor?" And I was like, "Oh, like I love Leonard Nimoy." And he was like, "Oh, Leonard's such a good guy." And then he started like doodling like Leonard Nimoy's, like a caricature of him. And so like now I have it. It's somewhere in my room. I should probably hang it, but that's literally the best thing I ever own. Like,
wow.
Yeah, and you have the memory associated with it. So that's really amazing for me.
Yo, if you find that, we do a ShoPowSho and tell now. I'd love to see that and show that to the world. That sounds amazing.
That's I will. I just moved like 3 months ago, so it's like in a box somewhere, but I'll look for it.
Heck yeah, I would love to see it. That's awesome. Jeremiah, thank you so much for your time. Ashley, for joining me with this. We love to sign off with throwing out the socials or any websites or, you know, Tremendous Communications. I'm also going to have it in the description below, but for our audio listeners, just how they can follow you and keep in tabs with everything you have going on.
Yeah, you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Jer Abraham, JERABRAHAM, and Tremendous Communications is at tremendous_com, COMM.
Heck yeah. Follow like I am and send Jeremiah all the love and just you know, just this journey you're doing, and just support it. We need y'all to support us. Like you said, you know, put that money down. Don't try to illegally download it. You know how like we can sometimes. No, we got to support it. We got to support it. Jeremiah, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate you, man.
Thank you so much.
Boom. There you go. Jeremiah Abraham, Tremendous Communications, the Obi-Wan Kenobi. Although I got to find something better, more Star Trek oriented, because that's Star Wars. Yo, your boss, the man, Ashley, thank you so much. Off the tip though, before I get into that, for joining me, becoming the newest Ate of the amazing Ates. I love you so much, and you're so amazing. Thank you for your time to join me with your boss, Jeremiah.
Thank you, Kuya P. Honestly, it's an honor to be an Ate.
Yes. So did you gain some new insight on your boss, Jeremiah, and everything he's about?
Oh my God.
He was in a singing group.
Oh my God.
The Ube Boys.
What? The Ube Boys? I didn't know that he was like into science, and he had like a chemistry. I didn't know he was a black belt. Oh my God. What? And we had talked during like our tremendous talk and stuff before, but it's mainly around like the industry and entertainment and stuff. But like new facts, Ube Boys, never going to leave my mind ever.
And what was the song that he said he sang? Or was
Brown
it
Brown Eyed Girl?
There we go. So you gotta kind of play that a little bit sometimes, right? When you start off, just to see if you
it's just gonna like
now. Slide it in,
slowly play in the background.
Yeah, exactly. That would be hilarious. But just his journey, you know, we like with you and then having him on, how we're not a monolith, and this is why we're doing this. We all have our own ways of how we came to be, and our Filipinx journey, and you know how that is with the American experience. It's all different, and that's why we do the show, to just tear down those labels, tear up those boxes that they try to place us in, that we're so uniquely beautiful. And like with yourself and your journey, I can't thank you enough for joining me to share Jeremiah's story. We always kind of pull like certain nuggets that we pulled from that. Was there a specific nugget? I know there's things that are new that you learned, but just well, I think you kind of already said it, and you're blessed to be on his team. How he kind of imparts his knowledge and gives you all over there tremendous and help build y'all up with what you guys are doing.
Yeah. Like every day I learn something new, and I'm so thankful to have a mentor in him. But he said something specifically. He said, you need to go experience the world in order to change it. And, you know, I get like, we're so busy with working, like I have this audition due, and I find excuses and like, I got to do this voiceover, but like, I have to get outside the world to tell these stories. And in order to change things, I have to like experience. And it's just like a nice reminder. Oh yes, take a vacation, because it will benefit you in every way possible. So that was nice to hear.
Heck yeah. And to know that he's doing it as well, you know, so we all have to take these lessons that we're saying for ourselves as well, not just speak it, but actually live our truth and do that.
Preach.
And it's so important. So I love it. And I again, like I said, I can't thank you enough for joining me. And all of what he said is just so inspiring for me, because I'm an old head, you know, and every single time, like, dude, I thought he was 77 as well, but nah, I'm like 5 years older than him. What? Like, yeah, it's just crazy. But I think like a lot of people tell me I have a very young spirit. So I'm blessed that I have that young spirit. I guess it's crazy. But,
I kept up most of the time. There were some references where I was like, I don't know what they're talking about.
Do you remember AOL? Were you, or was that?
I had an AIM name. I wasn't allowed to be on AIM, but I had an AIM name. But that's as far as it goes. That's
as far as it goes. So you don't know like Netscape or anything like that, or even that 56K modem where you had that dial up.
No. I did remember though, on Mythbusters, there's an episode where a disc explodes in the tower, and that happened to us at our house. But that was the only that's all I got. That's all I got. Gosh. I did like make the MySpace pages and stuff, but that was it.
So you did have some initial coding skills at one time, right? Because that's what you need. That was actually coding. People didn't realize it, but making those MySpace pages with music and all that, you were actually coding, you know?
Yes, and that I feel like it started this like Jeremiah. It started this generation of coders. I wonder how today's youth with like TikTok and everything. Like, I wonder how many filmmakers are going to be in the world later.
Oh, I know, right? Yeah, because my daughter's already learning how to like cut and do all that stuff. It's crazy.
That's so cool.
But that just means we're just a lot of that is going to improve a lot of projects going forward. And that means us old heads got to improve our game too, to match these cats. Like I'm trying to learn TikTok. I actually just started a TikTok account to just add to the recording of stuff. And so I don't know. Do you have a TikTok, Ashley?
I do. I've posted, but then I took them all down. My
really?
manager's like, you should make TikTok videos. And I'm like, oh God.
Okay. Yeah. I'm wondering if that's a vehicle that we as actors should do. You know, it seems more still like a very, you know, the younger generation right now. But, you know, I started one because I started seeing other people do it. But then it's more so dance videos. So I don't know how that helps us as actors, or does it just expose a different part of ourselves? I don't know.
I learned so much. It's like such an educational place, and there's like fun voiceover things that like it can be used well. I think you just need to like follow the right accounts, because like sometimes I'll like look up and I'm like, oh my God, 3 hours have passed. Where am I?
I love it. Oh man. Yeah. So it's just trying to stay up to speed and just keep improving and keep learning. Yeah. I'm always a student. You can't ever, even as old as a head that I am, I don't ever want to feel like I know everything. Like I want to always be improving.
Kuya P, you are not an old head.
I feel it though. Sometimes my body tells me I'm an old head. Let me tell you. But I think, I try to be young at heart, and just, you know, we got to, and we always got to be improving and learning and making the world a better place and making a difference. And you're doing that with everything you're doing with Tremendous. And I know with the work you have with the Letters to Lola, right? Was it Letters to Lola? I still want to see your one woman play and all that.
It's gonna go up. It's gonna go up on my grandma's birthday this year. It's going up. Yeah,
I'm ready.
There's so much, and look at what you're doing.
Hell yeah. Dude, everything you're doing, I'm gonna support it, and I love you. Can't wait to meet you in person. Before we leave out, we always give our like our TikToks, our usernames, our IGs. Can you let let everybody know before we leave out of here how they can reach out to you, Ashley?
Yes. I got to promote Tremendous because Jeremiah was on today. So you can follow us on Instagram and Twitter, Tremendous Communications, tremendous_COMM. We're everywhere. And you can follow me at Rapuano, Ashley, RAPUANO, Ashley. That's where I am everywhere.
There you go. So for you audio listeners, you heard it. And then for everybody that's watching this, that's on YouTube, I'll have all that in the description below, so you can make sure you follow Ashley, follow Tremendous Communications, my man Jeremiah. Thank you so much for joining us. Salamat po, brother. Ashley, love you. Mahakita. Salamat. Your boy Kuya P. You can follow me at Strange Since 1977, as well as at Temple Far East. And I just said I have a TikTok now. The TikTok is the legend Kuya P. Excuse me with the bravado, but the legend Kuya P. I don't know. I'm trying to build up a legend. And the NRW and at New Release Wednesday, where nerds rule the world, and at the Nerds of Color, where we give you pop culture from the POC perspective, and of course the ShoPowSho over at the NOC. That's all of our handles. Mahakita, love you, Ashley. Your boy Kuya P.
Love you.
Out of here. Salamat.
My name is Jeremiah Abraham. I'm the founder and CEO of Tremendous Communications, and I'm so excited to be on ShoPowSho. So please watch my episode. It's coming up soon. Hi, everyone. My name is Jeremiah Abraham, founder and CEO of Tremendous Communications. And to me, my heritage means empowerment and history. I'm very inspired with the people who came before us, who fought for the privilege that we enjoy here today. And I'm so happy to be continuing the fight to spotlight Filipinos in Hollywood.